story.
To my younger self, what's your
To
story?
my younger self.
To 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 my younger self. To my younger self.
To my younger self. What's your story? To my younger self. What's your story?
Well, hello there. Good morning. How are you doing? It is so good to see you. My name is Zoe Baraka, and oh my goodness, I see a few of you here. Oh wow, Juliet, you are first to report today, Lady Juliet. It is so good to see you. And how is the UK? Hopefully, it is not as dreary as it is here. The sun is up in New York, and it is very cold. It's like 25 degrees. Oh, right. It is cold in London. I know. Good morning, Elsie. Good morning, our own very, very capable and competent, loving producer, Elsie. It is so good to see you. I cannot even ask you how cold it is in Canada, so I'm not even going to try. If it's cold in New York, cold in London, it is definitely colder in Canada. Christabel, it is so good to see you. My goodness, you all are coming out in your numbers today. I'm excited to see each and every one of you. Guys, where are you watching me from? It is so good to see you. The show is To My Younger Self. My name is Zoe Baraka. And so, of course, we're going to be hearing some incredible stories from our very, very special guest today. But before I do that, how about we greet each other the way Africans greet each other when we see each other for the first time in the day, right? Welcome to the show. Baraka da zua. Like houses will say, Sanunku da zua ya de kakwana lafia. It is so good to see you. Ya ken ken tuma tuma fudwa wela tuma awela. This is me greeting you in my mother tongue, the Kasal from Ghana, northern part of Ghana. Let's be precise. Ndina to you if you speak Ewe, of course, Wezo. How are you doing? Efwa, it is good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want you to go into the comment section and, of course, put in the comment section a greeting from your native dialect. I want to learn it and I want to be able to greet you in your own native dialect. Etiseng Akwaba, I hope you're doing well. Uhuntedenya Mawachi. I am greeting you in various forms of the Akan dialect. It is so good to see you. Sawubonani to you. Of course, if you are in South Africa, I just greeted you in Zulu. I love you, South Africans, because you always pull the numbers, you know, like you never really show up during the show, but oh my God, after the show, we give you a day or two and you're on it. You're on it. You're on it. It is so good to see you. Sawubonani to you. Ibella to you. Ibiokebare to you. If you speak Maori or Moshi and you are in Burkina Faso, really anywhere in the world, I greet you. I salute you. Thank you so much for joining us. Te Oyo 10 to you. OJ Cole, Professor Audrey, my goodness, I miss you. Where have you been, Prof? I feel like you just kind of threw us away. Why? Why would you do that? Ekaro to you, ekabo to you, to all of our Nigerian friends, especially those who speak Yoruba. I greet you, I greet you. Nagadef to you, to our Senegalese friends. If you speak Wolof and then you're in Senegal, I greet you. Jambo to you, habari gani, habari ya osubwe. Swahili speakers, where are you? please do me a favor. If you're already here, share the link, please, so that we can hear more languages coming into this space. This is what we do in Africa. We greet people. So share the link so that more people can join us. Kotong to you, Amohelang to you. Do you speak Sesotho? I just said hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Domila K to you if you speak Bisa, the Bisas of Ghana and of course Burkina Faso. I greet you. Kotoli to you if you are Fulani and you speak Fofoldi. I greet you. Bom dia to you if you speak Portuguese. You know, I'm always saying that most people don't realize a lot of Africans speak Portuguese, you know, because they definitely did get to Africa, believe it or not. Bonjour to you if you speak French. Bonjour, no, buenos dias. Of course, Imaraba to you. Welcome. The name is Zoe Baraka. The show is To My Younger Self. It is so wonderful to see you. Let me tell you, these greetings, man, sometimes they be taking like 5 minutes just to do the greetings. But it's not just because we love doing it. I'm very excited about today's show because I've heard so much about this woman that I'm about to introduce to you. And I never necessarily had the pleasure of meeting her in person. And so when she came into my peripheral, you know, sometimes you see someone online and you say, I wish I could have her on the show. I just don't know how to reach her or something like that. And you kind of say a silent prayer and you move on, right? But let me tell you, the power of silent prayers, even those silent prayers get answered, because out of the blue, our producer says to me, you know, I can get this person for you. And I didn't necessarily show all the excitement that was going on in my heart, but I absolutely admire this person. And let me just introduce her to you. And I'm using the term this person because I didn't necessarily want to say her name yet, because I want you to go, whoa. Experienced Chief Executive Officer with a demonstrated history of working in the nonprofit organization management industry. Skilled in nonprofit organizations, advertising, event management, editing, and media relations. Strong business development professional, currently pursuing a postgraduate certificate in education from Nottingham University, United Kingdom. Guys, I am talking about the absolutely indomitable Eugenia Tachie-Menson. Eugenia is a passionate educator who makes learning fun for children under 18 through co-curricular programs. She has been the country director for Young Educators Foundation since March 2010. Her professional background started in media in Ghana, where she worked in varied roles before leaving for the UK to further her studies in communication. A firm believer in giving back, Eugenia also volunteers her time to serve with agencies and organizations in educational reform. She has served with educational think tanks, Imani, Ghana, and has also served on school boards and PTAs. The 2014 brand ambassador for multinational textile producer Vlisco's experience and influence led to her obtaining the exclusive rights to run the Scripps Spelling Bee of the United States of America in Ghana. Starting with only 6 schools and 30 students, the program has grown over the last 10 years under Eugenia's leadership to impact over 10,000 children in Ghana. Guys, are you hearing the numbers? 10,000. Just think about that, from 30 students to 10. This is legacy right here. Through her charity organization, Young Educators Foundation, which she currently runs in Ghana and Nigeria in the past, because I think she ran it in Nigeria in the past, she has grown the program's portfolios to include literacy programs in local languages, as well as public speaking programs for the youth. Let me tell you, there's so much more to Eugenia, okay? So much more. She has been the U.S. Embassy Ghana's representative at the International Visitors Leadership Program in 2010. There is just so many accolades that we cannot go through it. What I want you to do is go on social media and find her for yourself, and also just Google her and you would be blown away. And so without further ado, please make like we always do. in the grand style of To My Younger Self, we're always saying welcome, hugs, and love, and just going into the comment section and welcoming our very special guest. Please, please, please let us do the same today for the absolutely beautiful, intelligent, and oh my God, so easy to speak with and just conversate with Eugenia Tachie-Menson. Hi, 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 hi.
Gosh, Zoe, I was beginning to wonder whether it was me you were talking about.
It is you. This is your resume. It's your
I've never had
resume.
it read to me, you know. I've never had it read to me.
All I did was read it.
Yes, I guess the desired impact has been achieved. But thank you so much for having me on your show. You know, we've been trying to get on it for like a year now.
Mhm.
And so, with my hectic schedules, thank you for your patience. And it is an honor.
It is such an honor, yes. And a very strategic time for you to actually be on the show. I am so excited that you're here today. And listen, my job is done. Can you believe that? I only do 10 minutes of work.
I'm jealous. I wish that was my job.
And so listen, over to you. Please take us away.
Right. Okay, let me see. I'm used to talking to young people, children. People
I'm
under
a young
18,
person.
So it tends to be, and that's why I gave the context. People under 18, and so younger persons, and so it tends to kind of be a lot of question and answer. But I'll see how well I do today. So I'd like to start from my choices, the kind of choices I've made in life, and how they all have played in very well. So I started out as I'm an only girl amongst two boys, and I'm in the middle as well. And you know what they say about middle kids: we love attention. But that's because no one gives us attention. So I started off really as being the girl in the neighborhood who will babysit anybody's child for free. That's how I started out. And the next thing, it was my home that was the neighborhood babysitter's house. All the kids in the neighborhood knew me. I probably was about between 5 to 8 years older than most of them. Again, I didn't have a sister, so typically it was the girls who would come through. And my mother, poor bless her, my mother would freak out when she comes back from work because I would have cooked all her food for the kids. And I was about 12 or 13. I would have cooked food for the kids, used her makeup, run the bath for all these kids, basically made a mess of her kitchen and used resources she's planned for the week. And she would be telling me off, and I would be pouting and not understanding why, until I start going into boarding school and these kids begin to grow. So these kids were, as I said, I was 5, 8 years older than them. So anything between 6 months and about maybe 7, 8 years. And we will read together, we will sing, we'll play, we'll dance. We used to, in Ghana, in my time when we were growing up, this was like in the 80s, we would pound fufu in the ground. We use mud in pounding fufu. So I'll be the one pounding it, and then I'll dish it out, and everybody will pretend to eat. It was just great. It was really a great time for me. And I put this within the context of what I do now, which is that I love being in the company of young people. I'm able to gel with them. A lot of people tend not to. They ask questions like, "What do you say with children that young? What conversation can you have?" So the same I'll have with you. The same conversation I'll have with you. So I'll talk about what I do. I'll talk about the challenges they have, because they do have challenges. I mean, it's not pretentious with them, but I think that we make it seem as though younger people or people of that age, are probably not intelligent enough to hold conversations with them, and so we kind of baby talk them. Yes, so we kind of baby talk them. And before that, I grew up without, half of the time without TV in my house. Not because my parents couldn't afford it, just that we didn't need it. And so reading became the way of entertainment for us. I remember when I was in primary school, Richard School, the thing to do to borrow a book was to wait till Friday, so you have longer days. Because when you borrow a book from a friend, by the next day you should be bringing it back. So you see some of us reading on our way home or go back to school because we need to finish it. So that's how my love for reading became nurtured. It was sort of instilled it was more circumstantial than it was, I just love reading. It was really nurtured. And so with that reading, and then having kids around where I would read with them as well. I went on to secondary school, again, not really knowing what I wanted to do. My first 3 years, which forms 3, we're kind of going through the motions. But I always went to those who were behind me. I never tended to spend time with my contemporaries. I always went for the younger ones. Always would spend time with the younger ones. And so what I noticed was that when I got into, and I was in Maui secondary school, when I got into secondary school, by the second year, my seniors had noticed that I was very literate, above the regular.
What they call a break, right? Did they use
break? Well,
break?
no, they were not calling me. They were calling me too known.
The
term too.
That term, too known, because you read.
Yes, too known. And their test, I had about 20 different seniors who tested me on my eloquence and literacy knowledge.
Wait, what?
About 20 between Form 1 and Form 2.
Wow.
And it was basically, yes. And the test was, you should be, okay, I'll tell you. So I'll tell you the test and I'll tell you why. The test was that you would recite the national anthem, not sing it, recite it. Because there's a part where, there are parts of the national anthem where people don't enunciate the words very well. So, and then we're done. So it was a test. Why was it a test? My English teacher had gone to brag to the seniors that there was a junior who could do better than them. Who could do better than them. So it was like, okay, we're going to test you. We'll use that first. And I will say it all through because my foundation was strong. I'm not saying this because to show off, but in my primary school, I mean, enunciation, elocution, reading was just the thing.
You know what? I'm getting the urge to suddenly say the national anthem, and I would like for people to kind of say it together with us. I think it'll be so much fun. And I don't know if I'll pass it because you're right. I'm probably one of those that So yeah, I think maybe we want to hear it. Yes, and to say the national anthem, we put our hands right here, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's do it.
National pledge. National pledge is here. National anthem is sung. The national anthem is normally sung. But
is that
again,
the one
as
that
I say,
was,
so should
I
I sing
promise
it?
on my honor, right?
No. God bless our home.
Oh God!
No.
And
National pledge is your singing. The national pledge is so. Can we say the national anthem? So do you want me to say it or do you want me to sing it?
Oh,
I'm more comfortable singing it.
Let's say it. Say it. Yeah, say it.
So, okay.
Which one are you comfortable doing? Singing or singing it? Sing it. Okay, let's sing.
Because it comes naturally.
Let's sing it. Yes. Let's sing it.
God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever. Of freedom and of right.
Fill our hearts
with
true. Liberty, make us perish. Fearless honesty
and help us
to
this
resist oppression with all our hearts.
forevermore. And help us
To resist oppressor's rule with all our
with
hearts.
all and might forevermore.
Oh, so wait,
So there's
was
cherish, fearless honesty. It's normally mangled up. So yeah, so when I pass that test, then I'll be passed on to the next senior. Go and do it with her. So I did that for 2 years.
Oh my
Just to
God.
confirm that I was good in language.
And this
so,
was in senior secondary school.
Yes, this is
I
secondary
cannot
school, yeah.
believe that.
Yeah. Well, that was better than being asked to read. So
Juliet, please,
So-
I remembered Juliet. Lady Juliet, I remembered. I was able to say cherish, fearless, honesty.
Yeah. So when I'm talking to younger people, I say check one. Being able to speak well can get you out of trouble. It can get you out of trouble. So that kind of strategy. So I became the go-to for my seniors if they had it whenever they were nominated as prefects and they wanted a speech. They'll come to me to kind of go through, change the process and whatever. Yeah, at that year, I was younger than them, but I was doing that.
How old were you, if you don't mind me asking at that time?
13, 14, and these were like 16, 17-year-olds who were going to write O-level. Right? So I totally enjoyed it. It was something I enjoyed doing. And then generally, I didn't enjoy, by Form 3, I wasn't in, or was it Form 2? I think by Form 2, yes. I wasn't enjoying my experience in Maoli school because I didn't really choose it. I chose Wesley girls, but somehow they never got my card and I ended up at Maoli school. So in my head, I always wanted a girls' school. So I was not enjoying my first 2 years. I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I really was. But what saved me was I liked singing. So I said, okay, let me join the school choir. School choir was there. So let me join the school choir. Somali school is in the Volta region and Ewe is the predominant language.
Yes.
I'm part Ewe. My mom is Fanti, my dad is Ewe. But the stronger of the two is Fanti. So my dad was being deliberate in making sure I got an Ewe school once I didn't get a Fanti school. So I wasn't good with the language, but being in the choir began to help me enunciate in Ewe very well, understand the language, and use it to get out of trouble. Again, check 2. Learning a local language helps, or the language of the region that's not limited to Ghana, wherever you find yourself. Learning the language makes, and I was beginning to get accepted. That was the other thing, because I almost stuck out like a sore thumb because I didn't speak Ewe, and most people were speaking Ewe. So when I joined the school choir, I became one. Again, the principles or the fundamentals I had been taught in primary school about enunciation, I just transferred that to Ewe. Because in Ewe, there are some silent letters that are sounded, but not fully. It's technical. But so the school choir saw me through. The school choir the school choir took me out of school sometimes, and I loved that because we went and did singing competitions. The school choir exempted me from doing all the hard work when we had to go for weeding or whatever. Because you're a chorister, you don't get to do that. You go for choir practice. And the one thing I was proud of was that as of age, I think 15, by age 15, I could sing the Hallelujah chorus. Because I'd learned that in the school choir. So checkbox 3, it helps to have a hobby when you're in school, or find one to take your mind away from the unpleasant things. Talk about a few of my favorite things kind of situation. So that saw me through Maoli school.
Wow.
And by the time I had gotten to Form 4, where we had to choose our subjects, my life was already carved out in terms of the subject I was going to look at, which was the arts.
Yeah.
Literature was one. And honestly, before I got to my Form 4 in Maori school, I had no idea that aside of Ghana, there were other African countries that mattered. I knew of South Africa, but I didn't know much about it. I just knew of apartheid. That's how come I knew about South Africa. I listened to the BBC, and that's how I heard of the other African countries. But in my mind, I kind of thought they didn't matter. They were negligible. Do you know what I mean? Compared to Ghana. What? Now, literature was what exposed me to the rest of Africa, because we did African literature. I met East African authors. I read The Trial of Dedan Kimathi. I think
Ngugi wa Thiong'o, yes.
I met the indomitable Chinua Achebe through Things Fall Apart.
Things Fall Apart, No Longer at Ease.
And that was my opening. My opening, and because to a large extent, I don't know whether it was deliberate, but I was a bit Western in my outlook, very well. Even though I was very steeped in my tradition and my identity, I think my mindset was quite Western, because that's the only thing we were exposed to.
I'm so curious. Like, what were the things you perhaps were watching, or?
So I listened to the BBC. I watched Cosby Show. I read Enid Blyton. So there was nothing African in that regard. The only thing is, as I say, so Ghana for me was the only. It seemed to be Ghana was the only African
country
around. As I say, I listened to the BBC because that's what my parents would listen to in the car. So we listen, but you hear it in passing. Do you know what I mean? Here, Mozambique, and you're thinking, where in God's name is Mozambique? But I knew where the UK was. I knew where the US was. I knew where Russia was because we had a Russian neighbor. I knew, basically, the point I was trying to make was that it was.
You knew the world.
I knew the world without Africa. I knew the world without Africa. And that's another thing I'm grateful for my education in Ghana in secondary school, because the exposure to the other parts of Africa is one thing that I believe has steeped me further in my identity and in being true to myself. It's also steeped me in the belief of young people on the continent. So anyway, that's how I met Africa. I met Africa through literature. Who would have thought? Someone would have said you should have done geography.
Right.
Africa through.
Yes, because literature at that time was so, well, the literature of Africa at that time was just beginning to boom. The Pacesetters book series, Penguin book series, Heinemann, you know, and, you know, maybe the people in the audience can tell us even more. And you're right, all these books that kept coming at us. Jaguar Nana is one of my favorites. Cry the Beloved Country, Tell Freedom, you know. Wow.
This would be like the mid 80s to late 80s was when it was almost like a renaissance, right? When it was there. So as I say, it was from my secondary school, later secondary school, that I met these African authors, if I may call them so. But I think my fascination was how they lived. And it was through the stories I could tell. For example, this one that till date fascinates me was Beggar Strike. Beggar Strike. Yes, Maria Mamba's, was it Maria Mamba? I can't remember.
I think it's Maria Mamba. Beggar Strike would have to be, is
not so long a letter? No.
So no, Maria Mamba is so long a letter. But Elsie, tell us who I know.
Elsie will know it.
Elsie will know it. So long a letter is definitely Maria Mamba. Beggar Strike, I'm trying to remember. Could somebody please remind us? Because I know the book. But yeah, go ahead with the story. Aminata, there you go. Thank you.
Aminata. Is it Aminata Soul?
Yes.
Aminata Soul.
Yes. So go ahead.
So Aminata Soul's Beggar Strike. Now, what struck me about that book was the culture. The culture of begging for alms is accepted in Senegal. Again, the book took me to Senegal. It is accepted. So, long story short about beggar strike, and go get it if you can, was that the beggars had gone on a strike. The beggars had gone on a strike because, again, from how I understood it, because literature is also about interpretations, from how I understood it, because the Western influences were coming through where let's rid the streets of beggars. But in the Islamic religion, there is space and belief in giving.
Yes.
And therefore, there must be people to receive
for them. Yes.
So, and I found that fascinating. So again, you begin to learn about. So by the time I was done with secondary school, and I was at the tertiary level, when I had one Nigerian friend, but her father was Nigerian, but her mother was Ghanaian. So she was more Ghanaian than Nigerian. Yes. I hadn't met any African from any other country, but I knew the kinds of things to say or the kinds of customs to respect when I was in their space. So I did Dennis Brutus's poems. And so I knew of the concept of waiting in South African style. There are two lines. So if you're waiting in South African style, it just means that there's one line that is regular for the whites and then one that's not regular for non-whites. That is waiting in South African style. So the first time I went to South Africa here and I went to Soweto, here was me wondering, so how were people living? So how were they living under this South African style and non-South African style, if you call it so. Saint Dennis Brutus introduced me to the concept of civil service, where he said, civil service serves without civility. And I kind of thought, what does that mean? What? Now I got it. The civil service serves without civility based on your race. Yes. Based on your strength, based on your gender. Yes. You get it. And so the meanings, I'm sorry, I'm taking you all on a literature.
No, this is fantastic. This is incredibly fantastic because I'm picking up so many things that, as Ghanaians, we never necessarily thought about. And I'm just right now realizing that this must have been the experience of most Ghanaians. We just never really took it to heart. We knew of Ghana, and if you were not lucky to kind of maybe live on a border between another African country and where you are, and you are kind of concentrated in the middle, you may not necessarily realize at that time, because we didn't have internet and we couldn't see social media and what people were doing around the world. We just thought we were in Africa. And Ghana was part of Africa, but that was the extent to which most people knew what Africa was, which kind of is so fascinating to me, because I'm thinking, oh my God, we do have very different experiences, all of us, even in the same country. So please take us on this journey. I'm excited about it. Continue.
Yes. Wow. And so even though I read William Shakespeare, I read Robert Frost, and I can't remember the others.
Emily Bront or Bronte.
Somehow they didn't stay with me. It was the African ones that stayed with me.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking that it probably had something to do with how I was raised by my parents. So my parents were diplomats. My mother served Ghana on the continent before she moved on to the West. But they were deliberate in, my mother, for example, always dressed me as you see me now. Always in African print. Now, I was always the odd one out. So I was hardly invited, when I was in primary school, I was hardly invited to parties because I would not wear the trendy jeans and top. Like the thing in our time, the thing was Mickey Mouse t-shirt or Superwoman t-shirt and denims. But I didn't have that.
And sneakers.
Sneakers. My mother would dress me in this kind of cloth and denims. I'm wearing jeans. If she thought that it was a top. But normally she'll sew it into a dress and I'll wear closed toe shoes, no heel, and I will go to the party. I went to a couple of parties and I could tell nobody wanted to dance with me. I was pathetic. And then I thought, why is my mother doing this to me? But today I'm grateful because I learned that it's okay to be the odd one out, because look at how fate will work. So my mother, first of all, I grew to respect my mother for giving me her cloth. Because if you know the African woman does not give away her third cloth.
No, jeez, my mom never.
And she does not give it away, but my mother will make clothes out of it for me. I didn't get it back then.
Yes.
And so that was love, right?
Yeah, right.
And then come many years down the line, 2014, the Vlisco Textile Company nominates me and I win the ambassador for the fabric that I thought I didn't like in 2014.
Look at that.
Now, this is how life, this is how life tries to get a comeuppance on you. This is how life will put a comeuppance on you. What you thought you didn't like. Look at how now you're the face of it and you're representing it. Full circle. So so as I say, I think that my parents had something to do with how I just navigated towards Africa without even realizing it, because to begin with, my mother is Fanti, my dad was Ewe. They both spoke English at home, but they individually spoke their languages to us. My dad died when I was young, so I lost my Ewe, but I have the fundamentals there. We ate local food mostly. My mother always had this thing of outside food is not healthy, and she just used to say it's not healthy. Now I understand she means it's got additives and not as nutritious as what you have at home. So as I was growing up, I was the type that I'll dash into my dating scene where you took me out and I will not eat anything, because anything I tasted, I thought, no, I don't like this. I want my cocoyam.
I need my banku and the fufu. Please don't give me salad.
Yes, but they will persist in my palate as I went on.
Even for me, till date, I still don't eat salad when I go out. On dates, it doesn't matter where I am. I just can't touch a salad, but I'll make a salad at home if I know what the ingredient is. But if you just said this is a salad from a restaurant, I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Yeah.
You won't touch it. Yeah. So as I say, and I remember when my dad used to take me to, my dad was an ambassador. So my dad used to take me to cocktail functions for maybe former ambassadors. My mother would be busy, and so I'm the only girl, so he would tag me along. And I tended to hear him talk about Africa a lot. And then I think this was in the early 80s. There was something with, and I need to read up on it. I promise I will read up on it. There was something about Ethiopia. I can't remember, but I remember the speech my dad shared. This one line he said, where he said, it was a Bible quotation where he says, Ethiopia will soon raise forth her hands unto God. I was probably 8, 7. That line has stuck with me. I remember I write for a local newspaper, and I did a column on Father's Day, and I mentioned that I recall he said this. There's a biblical connotation to it, but the context under which he said it, I'm not sure. I do know that it was an African setting, because I remember he commented about my dress. He said, "Oh, you fit in well." I my mother's cloth again. So he said, "You fit in very fine." And I was 8. I remember 8 or 7. I couldn't be 9. I don't know. And so with that, and again with the way my mother dressed, my mother was one who she had never texturized her hair. She was always in either a pony, or she never even did braids. My mother never did. And very true, when we had guests, my mother, and normally their guests would be expatriates, my mother would always cook Ghanaian dishes. So with that, I also learned how to turn our dishes to cuisine. So my mother would never really cook joie. She would do kelewele and then maybe let it go cold and serve and wrap it in maybe like a flat bread is what we used to call it, and then add a bit of like chicken pieces to it, and that's a sour. It has a sweet and sour.
That's
You
like
know,
pizza.
yam will be diced into
Wow.
yam. She'll dice it up and make it into a potato salad concept using yam. You know, so as I say, I think that subconsciously, so yes, subconsciously, my parents were instilling these things in us without making it look like they were making an effort. You know, and
they were
so
just living, and then
yes,
you were living
they were
with
living
them
it.
and picking it
Yes,
up.
yes,
Wow.
you know. So by the time I had finished sixth form, where I did literature again, and so further into Africa, as opposed to the rest of the world. And I'm being honest, I don't know why the Western literature books I read didn't really stay with
And you
me
and
at
me
that level.
both.
The younger ones did, but
I think
they
I
just
only
didn't.
remember Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing and maybe To
Yeah,
Be or Not to
yeah.
Be. And that's pretty much it.
Nothing,
And I've
yeah.
tried rereading them and they still don't stick. Now it's just boring. I'm like, no, I
Yes,
don't.
yes, you know.
What are they talking
Yeah,
about?
and I think that the other reason I love the African, especially I started with the Nigerian and moved into into Senegal, so West African, East African, South African, was that the language was very relatable. Do you know what I mean? Shakespeare was very old English, very old
Very
English. Why
colloquial.
doth thou?
Yeah.
You know, whereas especially for things fall apart, I learned a lot of proverbs from them, and the proverbs made sense because I could relate.
Yes.
I could relate.
Yes.
It made sense to me. I'm African, so it spoke to me in a way that the others didn't. And so, you know, I would go on and work at then it was a private radio station. Well, it still is a private radio station. It was just a one. Now it's a conglomerate, multimedia broadcasting, Joy FM.
Joy FM.
And how I got there, how I got to work there basically was I had met a kid when I was in my national service. So national service is when you finish sixth form and you have to serve your nation wherever you're posted. I was supposed to the central region, and I met a young boy who was a cobbler, but he spoke very fluent English with me. And I thought, what are you doing cobbling? Why aren't you in school?
I think we should break down cobbling for some people who may not necessarily. We mean shoemaker. We want everybody to get into the story. You know what I mean? So a couple of shoemaker. Yeah. Black shoemaker. Right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So he was an orphan who was living with his blind grandmother and was trying to make ends meet. I just thought, no, you're too young to be burdened with this, and you are intelligent. So I said I was gonna help him, and not with money because I knew I didn't have money. But I just said I'll find a way. And then my national service year group decided to organize a pageant, Miss NASFA. I said, why not? I'll just join and see if I can win. And I won. So my winning statement was, the question they all normally ask at pageants, what will you do when you win? So I said, if I win, and then I spoke about the boy. So the judges gave it to me based on that. So now I felt, now I have to do it. So what am I going to do? So I had heard of Joy FM as a station that had just opened. And I said, okay, I'll just go there and tell them my story, see if they'll open the airways for me to speak. I went there, I pled my case, and they said, sure, come the next day and do your interview. I did the interview, and by the end of that interview, the boy had in school, one of the prestigious schools in the country, to attend. Someone was going to pay for his fees for the first, second, and third years. Someone was going to always supply his food for him, his uniform. Basically, I left there, and the boy was sorted. Ghanaians can be that kind. Yes, Ghanaians can be that kind. you know. And right, so I was done with my job, right? And so I'm leaving, and then the business development manager there calls me and says, "You sound good on radio. Have you considered a career in radio?" I said, "No." I said, "Okay, would you like to start work on Monday?" I said, "I wish, but I have to finish my national service." When I tell this to my friends, they're like, "You're crazy. You should have said yes and gone for it." I said, "But if I don't finish my national service, because that was what we were told, and if you don't finish it, you can't get a job anywhere."
Right.
But anyway, so yes, so it agreed for me to go ahead and do my national service. And so I went, finished it, came back, and Joy FM took me. But it was on terms and conditions. For 6 months, we're not going to pay you because we're a new station, and you basically don't have any skills. So I was reading announcements, yes, making announcements, and that was normally twice in a day. So at this point,
Wait. Now, memory serves now. The moment you said I was reading announcements, for the longest time, this is like a huge discovery for me personally. I know this name, I just don't know where. I know, I know this, I know it. Where? This is huge for me. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me. I'm like, I remember where.
That's you.
There you are. That's it. The announcement. Oh my God.
Isabel now.
I know I'm behaving like a little kid, and I'm very happy because suddenly it hit me. Yes. Wow.
Excuse me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just cut in like that. My heart just went. Okay, go on.
Wait a minute. Yeah. So yes, so they said you can read announcements. This is all you're good for now. But we won't pay you for 6 months.
Wow.
Let's see how the 6 months goes. So I was like, I lived about 6 miles away from the radio station. Now, this was at the time when now my mother was a single mom, with 3 children, and I was certain I didn't want to be a burden on her. So, and she was a civil servant, civil public servant.
Yeah.
And so how was I going to do that? I couldn't ask her. She didn't have enough money to be giving me or to be going on a, on a daily in and out.
Right.
Paying you, So I really didn't want to burden her because obviously by the time I was a young woman, it was probably like maybe 19. And it was a lot on her. She had seen me through 6th form. And this is what had happened. I had been offered public administration to read at Legon.
Right.
And I went and asked, so I went for the counseling. And I was told, I said, so I wanted to know, what can I do as a public administrator? What does that mean? Basically, you end up working with government agencies. And I'd seen the troubles my mother was going through and the kind of money she was making. And I said, no, I don't think I want to do this. So that was about that time too that I got the job. So I thought, you know what, I'll take 1 year hiatus. Let me take this job because I'd been told you can have a job. And I came and there were terms and conditions. And so I had to stick with it. Now, I typically had enough, my national service money was next to nothing. Basically, it's just living expenses.
Right.
So I would walk 6 miles to work. So again, I didn't want anyone to know my story then, right? So I would wear my gym clothes, leave about 4:35 a.m. and walk from my house to Joy FM. When I get to Joy FM, then I change my clothes. Yeah, I change into my work clothes and then wait. And then in the evening, I'll do same. About after a month, the then director of engineering of blessed memory, Mr. Corte, saw me one evening walking. And so he said, where are you going? I said, oh, I'm going home. So where do you live? And I mentioned it. And he said, that's far. Oh, I can make it.
6 miles?
So, yes. So he lived about 2 miles from my end. So he he would get his driver to drop him off. The driver was a company driver, so he would drop him off, go drop me, and then come back. So he said, if in the morning you can get to my junction before this time, I can take you. I was like, I will be there, because I didn't like the sweating. When I get to office, I have to clean all over again. I was carrying extra bags.
Wow.
And people, I remember my colleagues used to tease me and call me the South African girl, because I was always dressed in African print, because by the time I get to work, my clothes are creased. So I stopped wearing Western clothes and I just do African print clothes, because it's easier. You won't notice the crease.
Right, right.
So yeah, so Mr. Kwate saved me, take me home, bring me back, and somehow I would. Eating wasn't a problem, because we were very communal at Joy back then.
Yes.
I believe it. So we buy food as a group and we kind of share. So nobody really noticed what was going on. It's not because my mother couldn't have afforded it. I just didn't. I knew what her responsibilities
burden
were. Burden her. Yeah. So my mother didn't know I wasn't being paid. She thought I was being paid. At least transport. That's what I thought. Because if I told her, she would have said, don't do it. I know that. No mother would want to see their child walk 12 miles a day. No mother.
But then you know what?
So
the bright side of it, you stayed fit. Right? And you still look fit. That's like a bright side of it right there. Wow. But you know, before you continue,
and I can walk anywhere.
All right. Before you continue, there's a question going back to the cobbler or the shoemaker young man. Elsie is asking, did you stay in touch with the young man, and where is he now? Perhaps if you know he's still alive, that is.
Yes. So we stayed in touch. We stayed in touch. I saw him every year, because someone in Accra offered that he should come stay with them every year, every long vacation. So I saw him every year. Yeah, someone did that. So I saw him every year till he finished school. Now, when he finished school, I deliberately didn't say his name, and I'm not going to say that.
That's okay. Yeah, you don't have to.
Yes. Yes. So the manufacturer took him in after he finished school and wanted him to work with him. But apparently things didn't go well between them, and he's moved on and he's in the UK now.
Wow.
So the cobbler is in the UK. His wife reached out to me once, and I tried to get back to her, but I didn't hear from. I was sharing the story somewhere, and she sent me an inbox and said, "I'm his wife." And I said, "Oh my days, how's he doing?" And that was it. I didn't hear from her again. So yes, that is the story of the young man.
Wow, I really hope he's doing well, and I hope he gets to watch this one day. And you know what, if you are and you're comfortable with it, whoever you are, we like your story. It's a powerful story, and the interconnectivity of humans. First, we hope that you paid it forward, you know, and you are always welcome to jump on and tell a story yourself. So we're going to end it there, but that is so incredible. That is so incredible. Wow. And also to Mr. Kwate, we want to say thank you, because man, it's the people along the way that just help us, you know, just say, I will give you a little help here. And that helps you stay in the community until it's time to move on. But I thought I should just interject and kind of, you know, say that. But okay, back to you.
So Mr. Kwate now sees me through. And I eat off everybody's food, you know. So I was really a lucky girl. Anybody's food I can get. There's food at home, but back then you couldn't. Carrying food to work was not the.
That was gonna be a hustle. Wow.
Yeah. So I started making money, personal money, from the second month when people had heard my voice and wanted my voice for their radio ads. That's when I started making money. And so I could do for myself. I could help my mother at home buy this or that. And then by the end of the third month, Joy FM management called me and said, "We're going to take you on and we'll start paying you." And I always like sharing the story, because I tell young people that if I had turned my nose at it and said, "No, you should pay me. How am I going to make it? I've got legs. I can walk. How am I going to make it?" I would have missed the opportunity of a lifetime, because back then it was difficult to get a job. Yes. As it is now, I guess. Joy FM would be my starting grounds for
And your
everything
stepping
that
stone. Yes.
yes,
Wow.
and my starting grounds. You know, so yes, so by the third month, Joy FM said, we'll start paying you, and we're going to train you to become a DJ. So I DJ'd a bit. I hosted, I think I hosted lunchtime rhythms, midnight something. I can't remember what it was called, but it was midnight something. Cosmopolitan Mix, which is Doreen's program.
Cosmopolitan Mix. Oh my God. Girl, you take it back. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I think the only program I didn't touch on Joy FM as a host was the Super Morning Show.
Yes,
because that was yes. And I remember so the first year, so you know, my boss, who then again I learned, now I know, then we didn't know, that he's a feminist par excellence. This was in the 90s, and he said, you will go back to school. I said, oh, sure, I'm gonna go. But honestly, when you start working and making money at that age, you're not careful. So he made it conditional. He was like, you're gonna go back to school. He goes, you're gonna go back to school, or you don't have a job. Now that just put me in check. So I said, okay, I'm already in the media space. I want to do something media related.
Right.
So I went to Institute of Journalism. And they offered me journalism, but I wasn't interested in journalism. I wanted public relations. I had seen David Ampofo. I mean, when it comes to PR, David Ampofo back in the day was the one to look up to. It was my older brother's colleague. My older brother is a journalist, and David Ampofo is PR. So I said I was going to do PR, but no. GIJ said, no, we are offering you only journalism. So I said, then I wouldn't take it. They were like, okay, next. Just pushed me away. And so I came back and told my boss that I didn't get. So why didn't you get it? I said, because I didn't get the course I wanted. He said, just do it anyway. But it was late. I had to wait for another year. And when I waited for the next year, I still applied for public relations, and I was still offered journalism.
Wow.
No choice this time, because I wouldn't.
Who was the director then, GIJ? Because back then there used to be lots. I remember his name, and I'm forgetting it, because he was my director too, and I remember they used to do that a lot. No, it wasn't Kwame. It was an older guy. Anyway, go on. But I remember they used to do that, and for those who wanted journalism, they would give you PR, and if you wanted, it was always a mix, and I couldn't understand it. Wow.
So I would go ahead and do journalism, and again, how useful has it become in my line of work? I always have to write press releases. So they were right. God knew what he was doing, and they were right after all. I needed to study journalism.
Right.
I would go on to the UK later on and study marketing communications, major in PR. But at the time, again, the lesson I've learned from that is that whatever comes your way, take it.
Take it.
Especially if it's a learning opportunity.
Yes.
Take it, because you never know. You never know when it will come in handy. We didn't get that kind of not mentoring, but counseling. We didn't get that kind of counseling. That, you know, the journalism course in itself does not mean you be done and become a journalist. Become a communicator. Journalism is under communication. Become a better communicator or an effective communicator. And because I was in the communication space, it would have made sense to me if it was presented that way. So yes. So I did GIJ, finished, and then continued working at Joy FM. And when I was working at Joy FM, again, my literacy was overwhelming. No, it wasn't overwhelming. It overtook the better part of me. So, I mean, I was known as the reader in there. I would read news bulletins and edit them, you know, based on my foundation from my primary school days.
Right.
But I wasn't an editor, nowhere near being an editor. And it was I would move on to become head of promotions and events desk, which was more what I liked to do. I liked to curate things. So I found joy in planning events. So, and I'm going to say, I said this in another video, and I'm going to say this today again. So, Ghana typically uses the British method of English and measurement and whatever.
Yes. We're basically British.
So the British have a Mother's Day, which is called Mothering Sunday. I actually prefer that name because mothering suggests more than the biological thing, right? Yes, but I'm saying that, but the essence of it was that it is not just for biological mothers. So what I mean, it could be a father who's doing an awesome job of mothering you. So I loved that name. So yes, and that was normally in March, and the US one, Mother's Day, was in May. Now I was head of promotions at Joy FM, and where I was responsible for the promotions calendar together with my programs director and my CEO, chuuuuu. So we sat down and we planned it out. So we're going to have a Valentine's promotion event. We're going to have in February. We're going to have a Mother's Day event in March. And then we're going to have a Father's Day event in June, and yada, 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 yada. We're going to have an Easter event, and So we finished the first, this would be what, 2000, no, Joy was 90, no, it wasn't 90. Is it 90? I can't remember. My numbers are not helping me right now. Joy was late 90s, I think 95 maybe, yeah, 95, 96. So yeah, I think in 97, we had the first major Valentine promotion where we flew a couple. It was a big deal in Ghana. We flew a couple from Accra to Akoso. It's never happened again because you need the military helicopter to do that. And we had to work overnight to ensure that that happened. The couple is actually Jennifer, I think she's Jennifer Sainate. You may know, she's based in the south of America. What I mean is Southern America, as in the United States. South, not in the New York area. She's a media personality as well. So anyway, we flew them, and it was a very successful promotion. Now, when we were done and we were reviewing it, we just noticed that oh my goodness.
Uh-oh. Eugenia, I think we lost you.
And we haven't really.
Uh-oh. The internet. Yes, you're back. Can you repeat that again when you were reviewing it?
Yes. So when we were reviewing it, we realized we were about 3 weeks away from Mothering Sunday. And we didn't have the logistics to create another event, basically back off the Valentine one. We're barely, because you need, when you're creating an event, you need to publicize it, you need to raise funding, a sponsorship, and get all the logistics before it hits the ground running. So I said, there's no way we can do this. So I sat down with my program director then, Mensa, and my CEO, and I said, well, there's one in May, which is the US one, so we could go for that one. And they said, okay, yeah, they'll give us enough time to sell, prepare, rest, recover from the Valentine one. So that is why Ghana celebrates Mother's Day in May, because Joy FM
started it in, oh my God, the gatekeepers.
Joy FM started it, yes.
The gatekeepers.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean, back then we didn't know the language, but today the language is influencers, right? So Joy FM influenced it.
Wow.
Yes, that's written under my watch. And also, we had the biggest, I think we had like 3 major events. I went for 7 years in Joy FM. The other big one was a family event called, yes, it was Mr. David.
Yes, he was my director too. Oh, thank you
so much.
That was Mr. David Newton, that guy.
Yes,
so many stories.
Yes, thanks. Thanks so much. Woo. Ooh, the grading of the matcha. The grading of the matcha.
Goodness. Yes. Oh.
So yeah. We created a family event called the Disneyland Getaway, where we encourage families to read. parents to read with their children, call in, answer questions, and then we entered into a drawing for a trip to Disneyland. British Airways was our partner then. And let me say this here and now, I had tried to use African novels. I couldn't find enough that were being sold. That was the problem, because people had to go and buy the books. But at the time, Beauty and the Beast was a thing, Pocahontas was a thing, and all their novels were around. And all the bookshops,
or whoever, and the lady with the long hair, I forget her name now, but
Yes.
Rapunzel,
Yeah.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, those little Lady Bee books. Right.
Yes. And no, not the Lady Bee. This was Disney. This was Disney.
It's the Disney books.
And so, Disney books, yes, the Disney books. So all the stories. So I think we did Pocahontas with the Lion King. No, we didn't do the Lion King. We didn't do the Lion King. It was Pocahontas, Beauty and the Beast. It was the biggest at the time. Beauty and the Beast was the biggest at the time. And you know, it was successful. It was great. We flew the family, you know, a family of 4 to Disneyland, France. They had a ball. I think it was cold, by the way. So that was the feedback they came back with. And today that we're still in touch with that family. It's such a good relationship. We would run that for 2-3 years, and then the bookshops stopped stocking
those books.
Novels, and we're moving into textbooks, because that was what was popular, you know. And so we had to stop that promotion and come up with something else. So we did a Mother's Day, cooking with your mother, cook out with your mother, Father's Day, hang out with your father at a race course. So we basically, my department or my desk was responsible for creating events that felt Ghanaian and cultural in a sense. The only thing we didn't do, which I would love to do today, was our cultural festivals. I would have loved to do that. I would have loved to do that today. But yeah, so then the biggest one was on the turn of the millennium. On the turn of the millennium, we did the biggest one called Get a Life. We gave away a car, a house, a bank account stashed with was it 20,000 CDs back then? Which was a lot of money back then. And what you had to do was listen to the radios, make sure your dial was on Joy from the beginning of the year till we started the competition. The competition started like in September, October, thereabouts. So that again, event was not just meant to generate revenue. It was meant to also get people stuck to your radio station, because there were other radio stations coming. So your event must always meet both. Yeah. Bring the station revenue, bring the recall, and translate that into numbers. And then the other big promotion was our first April Fools event. So it was with my beloved Komla Dumont, our colleague Dumont, who was getting married, supposedly. And, you know, we just kind of said, he's getting married on Thursday, you know, and that Thursday was April 1. We knew if he had said April 1, people will figure it out. So we just kept saying he's getting married. And then about 5 days and together with so the team had planned everything. We did have a reception. There was a bride in a gown. He was dressed. There was a drive from church through town to Joy FM premises. He got there, he gets out, his bride gets out, and get this, his bride was the then deputy news editor, Malco Zomelo, a man who was wearing my gown. And everybody had such a good laugh. Everybody has said we had a good time. So,
where is Mauko? Oh my goodness. Oh God, you're bringing up so many incredible names. My God.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. My Joy FM was I spent some of my best years in Joy FM. I met with, I worked with the great Kweku Sechiado. I mean,
yes.
I learned storytelling from Kweku Sechiado.
Yes. Wow.
Yes, I learned that. But I think I learned my work ethics. My work ethics generally, I picked from a man, my CEO, who used to work as he used to sell rice and oil in Makola. That was what he used to do. But he was a graduate. He was a graduate. He just decided to open a radio station, and all of my work ethic, punctual. He had never had any training anywhere else but in Makola.
In Makola.
Punctual,
Wow.
save the penny, make the pennies, keep everybody happy, and we will all be happy. You know, and so after 7 years, I again took another hiatus. At the time, people thought, "Oh, you are aimless. You are what did they say? They said aimless was one of the words, and then someone also said, I'm not ambitious. You're not ambitious."
Oh.
But I felt I was burnt out. We did a lot in those 7 years, and I was burnt out. And so I took a 1 year break. You know, where I didn't know what I was going to do. I went to the US, where I got a lot of different working experiences. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, majorly. Worked in the South for a long time. And then September 11 happened. Now, when September 11 happened, I began to take stock of my life. And I realized that I needed to get back on track. So I wanted to go back to school. And I have a confidant and a very good friend, Prince Olomorogiwa, who's Nigerian, who was in the UK, who said, "Why don't you come to the UK and study? You know, you did media. There's a course here by CIM. CIM is a Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is more related to media and marketing.
Right.
Might work." So I said, "Sure, why not?" So I packed up, left the US, came to Ghana, did all the necessary papers, and moved on to the UK. And studied my marketing communications there. The UK, I'll say, was the next best place for me in my life experience. I learned a lot. I realized how, I think it was more, I found it more accepting of me because I'm not necessarily an academic. And so I like to be in professional spaces.
Right.
I'm very practical in my outlook and very hands-on. And so the academia does not attract me, sadly. And so that work, and I realized that the UK was built for that, or a part of it. I mean, it's got all the universities, the world-class universities you know of, but it also has this space for just professionals. And think of any profession in the world, you will find a college for it. Yes, so I worked for BMW as in PR and marketing, and that was when I understood what branding was. When I was working for BMW, I think the top of our range, BMW then owned, and I think it's still the case, they owned Rolls-Royce.
Yes.
They owned BMW and Mini Cooper, or Mini, maybe Mini car. Now, Rolls-Royce was the top of the range. If you were driving a BMW or a Mini Cooper and it breaks down, we'll send someone to come and tow it for you. Now, if you're driving a Rolls-Royce and as much as a scratch was on it, we don't send a towing vehicle. We send a truck that's covered. Yeah.
Wow.
It is put in the truck because nobody can see that there's anything wrong with Rolls-Royce. And that was how I began to appreciate branding and value for money. And that didn't come at any extra cost to the owners. It doesn't come at any extra cost. So you've paid for premium. So it's one thing I keep telling young people when they say, "Oh, this is very expensive." I said, "Is it value for money though? Are you getting value for money? If you believe you're getting value for money, it's not expensive."
And it's not expensive.
But if you don't, then it's not meant for you. Basically, you know. So I would finish. And so it was during my student days, in my student days, my lecturer, who was my lecturer in PR, who was a PR, again, that was the thing. Everybody who taught us, so media, when I did media planning, research, we did research on consumer behavior, they were professionals. They were not academics.
Yes.
They were professionals. So I remember very well, my PR teacher or lecturer was practicing PR in Clarence House. Clarence House. Do you know where Clarence House is? Clarence
Yes.
House, it was Prince Charles's PR arm, as it were, or his office.
Yes.
And she was teaching us PR. And again, it wasn't about being, so she obviously she wouldn't give you any details, but the lessons that we were picking from how to manage your image as a person and the things that they went through. I'm telling you, I think the British have got it locked down in terms of how to handle PR. They got it locked down. And it was through this lady that I got my job at BMW. Was through her she brought it to school and said there's an opening here, and that's how I got it. Wow. So again, as you were saying, how God uses people
along the way. What work do you want to do? Yes, and you're putting in time
on your trajectory, on your journey. So I was studying and working at PR and doing PR at BMW. And when I finished, I stayed on a bit. And one night I was watching Channel 4. Channel 4 in the UK tends to show a lot of American programs. I think it was Channel 4. And I chanced upon the script spelling bee. Now, I found that interesting because when I was in the US, I never heard about the script spelling bee. It was
not a lot of people know about scripts. That's the problem. Every time I would see it, I would say, but does that happen here? I've been here for a long time, and actually I heard about scripts from you and your, like when people would share scripts from Ghana.
I went for a program in Michigan, and I went to a school. I had to go to a school to give a talk. This was a primary school, and the spelling bee, I was thrown aback. I said, there's no way. This program is that old, and it's an American culture. I said, nope, I've never heard of it. So anyway, I stumbled upon it on TV, I think Channel 4 in the UK, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. So this is children, this is literacy, you got me. I watched it till the end, and I thought, this is good. How come there are no Ghanaian children or African children in there, by the way? So I quickly went into, I sent an email. First I checked their website, and I realized it said it's open to English-speaking countries around the world. I said, okay. Ghana is an English-speaking country, and we're in the world. So I shot off an email. Said, I would like to see if Ghana is eligible. I got a response within a week to say to send over some. I had to answer and fill a form, and they said, so you'll hear from us. And I'm Ghanaian. When you hear, you'll hear from us.
That's it.
That's it. It's going to sit in some trash somewhere until you raise it again. So I would finish, and come to Ghana. I'd finish again. Once I'd finished school, I stayed on a bit to work. But again, never wanting to be the one who be an illegal resident. I just said, it's great working at BMW, but I just missed home. There's that. Right. And I also felt that I could make a better impact home than in the UK. I thought that in the UK, I was adding to the numbers. I'd gained the experience that I wanted between the US and the UK. And I think I wanted to come home and make a change. And by then, this was in the 2000s. So this was early 2000s. So Kufuor's time, President Kufuor's time.
Ghana was hip and popping, yes.
So I came back and worked I actually walked into a job. So again, a former colleague I used to work with a joy offered me a job. So again, if I hadn't gone for the national service and met that boy and taken up his story and gotten a job there, I wouldn't be where I was.
Yes. Wow. Look at that.
So I got a job for a year, and whilst there, I heard of an opening with PhD Motors, then a company that sold, I think, Dodge, Ram. It sold American cars and the Indian cars as well, Tata. And with my experience in BMW, I applied for it and I got it. And I got the job. 6 months into the probation was 6 months. So 6 months into probation, and here I assumed, I'm going to get this job because I've done a good job of it. MD calls me and says, no, you're a bit too rigid. You know, you don't know the Ghanaian ways. You don't know the Ghanaian ways. No, on hindsight, I agree because I just come straight from the UK. So I was working as, you
As
know,
a
if
UK
it's
person,
I wasn't flexible, but you need to be able to also understand cultural nuances in order for you to survive. You can't be saying, you know, I gave you 12 o'clock and you're not here. But I mean, I was saying this to my cousin who's just left for the US when she came down. She said, I gave you 12 o'clock, but you were not here. And I said, it rained and my town was cut off from your town and my networks are not working. I can't reach you. What else was I supposed to do? So these are nuances that you will not understand unless you are living in it. So anyway, so basically I lost that job. And so they let me go as marketing manager. And I said, okay, this was like a week and a half to Christmas. So I said, all right, fair enough, I'll go, but can I keep the car till after Christmas? Because I didn't have a car, and if you don't have a car in Accra,
you're done.
as good as
Yes.
as good as dead. So they trusted me enough to let me keep the car because again I had been on good record, so there was no reason not to trust me. So my way back home that day, I stopped at the post office to grab my letters as I normally do, and cried me a river because all that my mother was saying before was now playing back in front of me. She said, my mother listened to me a couple of times, listened to my ideas and said, Ghana is not ready for you. Stay there. Do not come here. I said, oh, Ghana is ready for me. I'm going to come. So here I was, practically taking my mother's phone to her, as we say in our parlance.
Just going
back to here. I told you so. Ghana is not ready for you. And I didn't have a job. And here is the same woman. Now I was a full-blown woman. I was in my 30s. There's a woman who, when she was just past her teens, didn't want to be a liability on her mother. Am I going to now be a liability on her? No way in God's green earth. So I took the letter, went home, cried. My letters cried me a river. And then I just started opening them. And one of them was from Scripps, spelling bee, saying that we give you the franchise to run and go.
Again,
Now,
right on time.
Everything has happened just
Right
on time.
time.
That's when I feel like there's no way out. He makes a way.
There is a way.
So, yeah. So I would start the first one, and that's why it was just 6 schools because I had about 6 months to start it. Where was I going to start? Finding funding. Guess what? My network from my Joy FM days was what helped.
Yes, is what would fund that.
Yes, I remember you ran these promotions here, so you can do this. Now, the organization that questioned me was the US Embassy. US Embassy said, you do realize that the Scripps Spelling Bee is an American franchise and it's an American culture. And you realize it's the magnitude of the program. I said, yes. So, and you're telling us that you're going to run the same thing here. I said, yes, close to it. He said, we'll see how you can. So why don't you go ahead and do it? We'll come and watch it. And if you do a good job, we will partner you. I said, sure, I like a challenge. So I went ahead and I ran it. And they were impressed and they partnered me years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is such an incredible, I mean, we are past an hour, by the way, just so you know. It feels like we just started the show, but it's an hour, 22 minutes right now. I'm looking at it. And I just want to hear so much more that I, like how everything just kind of fit in, like just so. But all through it, I think for me, the defining moment in this whole story was when you saw someone who had potential and the person had potential but didn't know how to move forward with that potential. And you decided to enter a competition in order to help the person or however it happened. But in your entering that competition, you didn't do it because you thought, oh, maybe I am all that, or that I am beautiful, or I am this. You wanted to enter it so you could help somebody else. And that's the genesis. And so what I'm picking up is, at least for me, is always choose to help people.
Yes.
because
I
that will
totally
always
agree.
propel you into a different dimension, or it would show you the path that you're supposed to take, because from there is where Joy FM kicked in, and then all these other opportunities just rolled into it. So helping people, my goodness,
There was
wow.
somebody who said, I can't remember who, there was someone who said, no one stands taller than he who raises,
People,
than he who raises people.
wow. Wow. And we have a tradition here on To My Younger Self that when one of the producers says something like this, when you understood the assignment and you did it well. So you definitely need to come back, because now the story has to continue, right? We're definitely getting ready to wind down now, but we definitely want to hear about the joys and the challenges of scripts, because today was about you. But now we want to hear about all the story, because you must have tons of stories of some of the disappointments, some of the challenges, some of the joys of it, some of the, because I know a few have won the scripts and all the other, when I was reading your bio, for example, I know that you also have the Young Debaters, club or franchise
Yes,
or event.
yes,
And this is actually a
yes.
public speaking competition for secondary schools. And I don't
Yes.
know why, for the life of me, that is not as popular as scripts. I do want to hear about that. And what, if anything, if Ghana is not taking it up, maybe the international community can band together and say public speaking in this dispensation is so important that we must come together
So,
to put in the necessary resources if need be. I don't know how, but I think one of the things To My Younger Self wants to do or is doing is that, one, you tell the story, present the challenge, and hopefully somebody somewhere would hear it and decide they want to help in one way or another. But that public speaking competition, um, I really, 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 one, I'm very impressed with that. I'm excited about
thank
that.
you.
And I just wish that it would be more. So you definitely are coming back. And I know
I
your time is tight, but even if it took us a
yeah.
year, we'll find you again for sure.
Yes, yes,
Oh
you
my,
will find me.
what a
You will
story.
find
Oh, what a
me.
story. This has been incredible, Eugenia. I cannot thank you enough for making time to just tell us your story. Thank you for taking us way back. You brought back some names. Oh my God. I am sick for Ghana. I mean,
Right?
I'm hungry for it. So, even though this is not Jerry Rawlins's Ghana or Kufuor's Ghana, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that it's still Ghana, And when I say Rawlins's Ghana or Kufuor's Ghana, those were the times that
Yes,
was even popping.
yes.
It was good. It was good. Someone
I
says my
will.
senior. Oh,
Oh, hello, Julia.
Jemima says, such a pretty soul. And I'm sure you must have helped Jemima in one way or another, like you've helped a lot of people. Shoot, I should come to you for a job at this point. Listen, guys, we're getting ready to wind down. And so, like we always do on To My Younger Self, we like to put people up on the pedestal, especially Africans and most especially Ghanaians. We're not being partial to Ghana. It's only because I'm from Ghana. That's the only reason why I talk more about Ghana. But I'm very, very partial to Africa as a continent as a whole. And so there's a couple of things I'd like for you to do for now. My big brother, Nana Redamwa, is doing a book drive where he's sending 16 schools in different regions in Ghana books, just as a Christmas gesture. And so you can see the information scrolling down there. Please, for anything you have, it could be one city. I prefer dollars at the moment. So it could be $1, $5, however it is. It's one city, one kobo, 100 city, 100 kobo, whatever it is. Please do send your donation, your support, so that you see how reading has helped Eugenia. It has, in fact, it charted her course throughout her life. Please, you do not know what life you are helping with that $1 or $5 or $1 million. These days, when you go to McDonald's, a cup of coffee or a small cup of coffee is like $3 and change. If you could give up that coffee and just send it to Nanaradam or for a few books, you would have helped someone's future. I promise you that. I promise you that. So please take note of that. Where Ghana, of course, Eugenia was talking to us about how she always wore African print. And now Where Ghana is making it available to, just readily available so that you can look good while you walk away in confidence. So do support Where Ghana wherever you find them. Of course, Humanity Chats with Margie Marge, my big sister, my friend who is doing incredible things, just interviewing me all around the world about what they do so we can have our eyes open. I'm telling you today, Eugenia told us a lot of things. She was in a little world, which most Ghanaian kids tend to be. So if you're watching something like Humanity Chats, I guarantee you would just learn about the entire world because people come from different places. Kua Designs is doing incredible things also in Ghana. You want to check her out for this Christmas music for your quality feet by Uncle Akofi Show every Sunday at 4 p.m. EST here. And, just check it out whatever time zone you are in. I see that last week they were in Mexico. Was it? Yeah, they were in Cancun. I mean, it's a global show and you get to dance and meet incredible people. So, of course, M. Sims by Mabel Simpson, Claturel, who is out here, Sixth and Stacks, I believe, Ryle by Design out of Kenya, Avon Zige Bridal for those of you who are getting married or need formal attire for your 50th or your 20th, or listen, however old you are, or some event. You definitely want to reach out to Avonze Gay Bridal, Keys and Credo by Nana Sapo, Horseman Shoes. I'm just mentioning names of Africans doing incredible things. Kunda Kids, which is actually owned by a Nigerian and a Ugandan. Okay, you do not want to miss these incredible people. And if you know about, of course, RD Collections, out of Gastonia, right here, there's incredible people doing incredible things. Incredible Africans doing incredible things. Now we're gonna add on Scripps Spelling Bee. I do not know how you can help, but I'll let Eugenia tell us how we can help, especially the international community. And when she tells us that, please, if you know someone who is able to help in that direction, you yourself, if you can help. And of course, money is always welcome. Okay, because cash is king sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And in some situations, you do need that. Okay, I see my good friend Ruth is here. Ruth, it is so good to see you. She's watching us off of YouTube. I love Ruth. How is Jamaica, my man? I hope I.
Ruthie,
Ruthie Booty, my beautiful friend. So anyway, I just thought I would share, just incredible things Africans are doing, and of course, the show that brings you stories all around the world. To My Younger Self with Zoe Baraka. You want to definitely check us out every Tuesday, and please do us a favor, sharing, because without you, we really can't be here. Okay. You give us so much of your time. You invest so much of yourself every Tuesday morning. We cannot say thank you enough. And with that, I want to say thank you to our donors. These guys just help us. Look at this t-shirt I'm wearing. Normal people scare me. I don't like normal people. Okay, people give us funds so we can buy these cool t-shirts and wear them and be on here. There's someone who actually pays for our internet every month. You know what I mean? Someone who puts people out right every month. I am so grateful. And with that, I want to say thank you to Mama Rose Matayo. Every month, like clockwork, this woman never fails. Jane Fiorito, same with you, Auntie of Exceptional Care. Thank you. Mr. EKD, thank you. There's a few of you who are doing incredible things, even just commenting with stars. Christabel, Dr. Vivian, every single one of you, I am very appreciative. Alrighty, so everyone knows I like talking, but I'm gonna stop. This is the end of my job again. And Eugenia, I would like for you, one, to tell us how we can help with scripts. And then after that, you can tell us the last that you want us to take away with us for the week.
Okay. Thank you so much for asking how you can help with scripts in Ghana. So in the last, I'll say 8 years, it's been my dream to include special needs children in Ghana. So we've worked with School for the Deaf. We put School for the Deaf in our students from School for the Deaf in our program, because I just thought that what I realized was that a lot of these children with special needs are never included in our mainstream, and we need to have a way where we can let them feel like they're children. They come across as adults, but they tend to be very burdened. Okay, and are left out. Basically, we think that there's no need for them. We just think there's no need for them,
and we give up too quickly on them.
We give up easily on them, yes. And so we brought them into the spelling bee, and we began to get some. Obviously, they're deaf, so how are they going to spell? Sign language. How else will they spell? Because they communicate with time. But what we're finding out, but basically funding them, finding people to fund them to participate in the program has been a challenge. We're doing it ourselves, but our funding partners dwindle by the year because, I guess, to be fair, what's happening globally, everybody's trying to protect their money, because the program is a subscription-based program.
Right.
So for those who can afford it, middle class who can afford it, they'll pay and have their children participate. But we tend to want to bring children with special needs to sort of stoke the fires of empathy in those who come from communities where they can afford it, to see that they got it good, as in you from the middle class, you got it. You've got people who don't have, but are also striving to be in a program like this. And so we've done that. We've done a school for the blind as well. But this year, we were unable to raise enough funding because of how depreciation has really affected our currency.
Yeah.
And so this year, it should have been our third sponsorship year with the School for the Deaf. Had to drop them because we just could not afford it. Putting them in the program involves a lot of training. They need special books. They need teachers to go to them and teach them, not regular teachers, our teachers, because we teach in a different manner. And so my plea is that we can get people to say we will support any special needs group you will bring any given year, because we intend to keep this as a thing. We want people to remember that it's not even a disability. We all have one disability. I can't speak your mother tongue, which
yes.
Well, by the way, and so if I found myself there, I'll be found wanting. When I go to School for the Deaf, I feel so powerless. I can't communicate with them. And these kids I can tell they're dying to say something to me. So I have to find an interpreter. And we know that once there's a third party, things get lost in translation. And so we want to make sure that they are a part of what our children are going through. They are children at the end of the day. They didn't ask to be born with any condition that we believe that they are in. And so based on that, we need to make it a point to involve them every year. So we've done a total of about 7 years with both School for the Deaf and School for the Blind. This would have been an 8th year with School for the Deaf, but we couldn't, and we had to drop it. But I'll say, for the 3 years that the School for the Deaf has been in the program, they've proven us right. We've had one of them make it to the top 5 as a national finalist. And one of them has made it as one of the best in vocabulary and is going to enjoy an Ashesi Innovation Experience Program, which is basically a company program next year.
Wow.
We're happy with this, and that's the point we've been trying to make, that the fact that they cannot utter words does not mean they cannot communicate.
They cannot communicate.
Spelling is our communication. Spelling really is our communication.
Wow.
Knowing how to use words effectively so that you can get your message across. That's what it is. And so this will be my plea, that if we can have a group of people or an organization say, if so long as you're bringing on school special needs children, we're willing to fund for them. We can make documents and proposals available for them to take a look at and take it on from there.
Wow. Thank you so much. And congratulations to that young person who is definitely going to be having a great time at Ashesi. And of course, thank you to Ashesi University for, just, making that available. And thank you for even, just being that inclusive. I left this comment on here because Professor Audrey says, making the spelling bee inclusive of them. That's profound. And of course, no child left behind. And the other profound thing you said was, it is not their fault they were born the way they were born, or even if they weren't born that way, but something happened along the way that gave them this particular situation they have to live with. They still have to enjoy life just as much as what we term a regular child might enjoy. And again, being a regular child is very relative, So please, just in case, whoever you are, if you happen to be watching a part of the show and you just bumped into this, we are making a special appeal to you. And I will definitely get together with my big sister Elsie after festivities, and we'll see how To My Younger Self can definitely help, even if it's just by talking about it and figuring out a way to be a part of this big thing that Eugenia is doing. I am so grateful. Now, guys, next week we have another, let me tell you, Africans, we are the bomb. Let me just put that out there. We are incredible people. Okay, we go through life with so many challenges, and let me tell you, every single time, if God does not sharpen your life, almost all Africans I know come out tops. I guarantee it. This young woman is going to be here. Rabiatu Ayoka Brimer. If you haven't gotten the book yet, I implore you to go get the book. The book is titled Rama's Lemonade. I cannot tell you. Oh my God. I read the book in one sitting. I normally read a book because you're busy, you're running around. So I would read it in 2 or 3 days. I read this book in one sitting. And if I tell you what that means, you'll be shocked because there's so much going on in this space right now. You would not believe it. To read it in one sitting is absolutely mind-boggling. I did, because I just kept going, what? And next week, Rabi will be here and we'll be talking about her book, Rama's Lemonade. You will not be disappointed. So definitely please join us next week. You yourself will not be disappointed. And as we go away for our week, I want you to know one thing: that hit and run visionaries. I've actually written this. Don't have a future. So keep showing up to life. It will work. Okay? Because that's what I think Eugenia did. She just kept showing up for life. With that being said, my name is Zoe Baraka. We have been in the studios or on To My Younger Self with Eugenia Tachie-Menson, the script lady herself, incredible, inspiring storyteller. And I cannot wait to have her back. Lady, you inspire me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And guys, we'll see you next week with Author's Corner on To My Younger Self. Enjoy the rest of your day and, of course, your week. And yes, for those of you in the United States, happy Thanksgiving in advance. I don't know why I never remember it, but maybe you know why, because I'm African. Does that make sense? All right. Happy Thanksgiving. My name is Zoe Baraka. We'll see you. Bye.